Hi, Anirban. Great to have you here as part of this Analyticshala discussion that we do with industry speakers like you. How are you doing today, Anirban?
Thank you, Prateek, for inviting me. I'm doing very well. Thank you.
So, Anirban, a lot of people know about you already in the industry. You are one of the industry stalwarts. But for the viewers, I will just do a quick round of introduction for you. So, Anirban here comes with more than decades experience in the world of data engineering, data science, digital experience, product building, and he has worked with wide variety of companies, including financial companies, technology companies. He comes with a strong pedigree. He has done his BTech from IIT Kharagpur, and then he's done MBA from IIT Bombay. Plus, most notably, in the last almost close to 7 years, he's been working with GENPACT, one of the powerhouse in the data consulting industry. He's currently an AVP in the data engineering and the data science vertical within GenPact, focusing on financial risk management. So we have a person who has got who's got the experience and specialty in both data engineering as well as data science verticals. Plus, he comes with a lot of digital experience as well. So a great person to have in this kind of a discussion. So Anirban, I wanted to ask you, since the topic of discussion today is design thinking in data analytics and data science industry, so a lot of people are still very confused with exactly what design thinking is. So if you can shed some light on it, it'll be a great thing for us.
Yep, sure. So design thinking, we have been using it knowingly or unknowingly in different aspects of life as well as in business. So design thinking talks about the specific way of solving a problem with an open-mindedness and keeping the customer empathy at the core. That's all about design thinking. But as we go along, probably I'll give you some of the examples which your viewers can relate to.
Sure. So if I mean, probably the right thing, right time to maybe I can ask you that if you can give me first an understanding of what design thinking is. If you want to share something, that'd be great for everybody. Because what I understand of design thinking is that agile, it's very related to agile, it's related to DevOps, it's related to statistical process control, it's related to lean methodology overall. So if you can just give some idea about it. Yeah.
Sure, Prateek. So first of all, let's understand that design thinking, more than a set of tools and techniques, it's a mindset. It's a correct mindset to solve a problem in an open-minded manner. It keeps the deep empathy of the customer at its core and the end users at its core. It is not about having the answer from the first day. So many a times when we consultants used to go in a set of client environment to solve their business problems, we have a notion of thought that we are the subject matter expert of that area. We know the solution. If you tell me the problem, I will give you the solution from my shelves, but that doesn't work all the time. Many a times that approach has failed. So we have to create the solution, keeping the customer empathy at the core. Put myself at the customer's shoe and understand what will he asking for, what will he be asking for, and whether he will accept my solution. That's the core of design thinking.
Okay, so it's more about solving customers' problem by keeping the customer in the center.
Exactly.
Yeah. And why have you kept employee experience phrase here? I thought it was more about customers. So why employees here?
Exactly. So say I am solving an HR problem, or so I'm solving a finance problem for a particular division. Maybe I am willing to reduce the employee turnover or attrition, or maybe I am willing to improve the ROI of certain investments. But at the end of the day, who will be using the solutions? There will be a set of people. There will be a set of employees who will be using the solutions to create all those changes in that particular environment. If they don't like the solution, they will not be able to use it efficiently. So efficiency will go down. So that's the reason we have to keep a 360-degree views, not only meeting the business objectives, but they understand the mindset of the users, whether they will be accepted. So cultural acceptability is the very core of design thinking.
So if you can maybe also explain that if I have to, if I have to explain design thinking to my dad, or my 8 years old brother, how would I explain design thinking to him?
That's a difficult question, but maybe I'll take the 8-year-old daughter. Okay. So a lot of 8-year-olds these days are playing with Legos. Right? When they see something good, they're in a vacation, they see the Eiffel Tower, right? Or they go to some mock space station setup or something. They have that in their mind. Now, when they come back home, they want to build it using Lego. But how will she build it, right? One approach could be that she will take a blue white sheet, draw that particular thing, go to engineering shop and build it. But does anyone do that? They don't. They take their Lego kits out, they build it, they show it to you, say that, hey, daddy, is it working well? How do you look? You say that, well, this is good, but I think this part was different. Now, in this case, you are the users. You are seeing the prototypes, telling that, I think this is good, but it could have been better if you were been doing it in that way. She goes back, changes the Lego setup, comes back to you. Now, at the end of the day, when you will receive the Eiffel Tower, you know that you have actually built it. Although she has built it, you were part of the journey. You will accept that Eiffel Tower wholeheartedly.
I see.
That's the core of design thinking. That's what
Very good example. Great example. My daughter actually loves Lego. So I'm going to actually try and explain this to her. I wanted to ask you one more thing about design thinking. So what are the phases in design thinking? I mean, if you can explain some of the phases which may be there in design thinking process.
Sure. So as I was mentioning so far, so customer empathy is the core of design thinking. So that's the first part you have to take care of. Then you define the problem. It is not necessary that the problem stated by
Anirban, can I take you just one step back to customer empathy? Can you give me an example of what do you mean by customer empathy?
Here? It is the feelings of the customer, right? Customer may say that I am not getting adequate return from my marketing investment.
I see.
But you try to understand why is it so important for him? Is it the monetary return on benefit, or is it something else what he is looking for? So take a holistic view of the customers, spend time with the customers, see what he is doing, see what he is presenting to his stakeholders, and try to create a case what his actual problems are. It may not be the stated problem of the customer. So that's the empathize piece we are talking about.
Good point.
Then we define the solution, define the problem itself. So as I was saying that it may not be that what customer has stated is the problem to solve for, right? Then we will go to the drawing board.
So in the define problem statement, you're trying to say that you want to not just take the problem statement on the face value, you go deeper and try and understand what are the main hidden questions which are being asked within that problem statement.
Exactly. That's the thing. Say, for example, many people do not like cafeteria food served at various companies, right? Now, do companies take it seriously, right? So there are companies who take it seriously. The HR departments run the surveys. What are the cafeteria foods? How is the price point? How is the variety and all those things? And they evaluate the vendors, and they may go to some other vendors or not. But why do they do it? Is it because cafeteria problem is there, or is it because cafeteria spread is low or the food quality is bad? No. If you try to understand deep dive, they want to increase the customer satisfaction. For them, customer are the employees.
Okay.
But why do they want to improve the employee satisfactions? Maybe it is a big factor in their attrition. Who knows, right? Now, although on the face of it, it may seem that cafeteria food is bad, but it is not the core problem. Core problem is something else. Maybe you can solve that core problem by some other means. The design thinking makes you think on those alternate paths, identify the alternate business problems which you should solve for.
Okay. All right. Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Now, once you have identified the problems, then they go for something called ideation on the drawing board, right? There could be many permutations and combinations. And since these are open-ended problems, which we are going to solve for, there is no one size fits all, right?
So ideation is like hypothesis that you, for every business question, you end up building some possible idea to solve them, or what is ideation?
Now, when we go for the design thinking mechanism, it is an iterative process
Okay.
of divergent and convergent process sets or views. That's what I call, but let me explain it, right? Now, in the typical fishbone diagram or mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive framework, the way we create the hypothesis, it's a little bit different, but that philosophy is not gone. It is also ingrained here, right?
Okay.
Now, between define and ideate, there will be too many times to and fro. The reason being, I will define the problem, I will ideate, and during ideation phase, I may feel that problem definition needs change. Then probably I'll go back to the definition stage, or probably I'll go back to the empathize stage to gather more data and information from the customers. Now, these process, a recurring process, will go on multiple times before we can form even the hypothesis.
Okay.
Right? Now, here, creating hypothesis, solving it, all those things go hand in hand.
All right. Makes sense.
Yeah. Now, then what we do, something called prototype. It can be a very types. It could be a simple drawing on paper. It could be creating something on cardboard or maybe on Lego, maybe some wireframe design, which you can create a quick app or something. It could be anything.
Okay.
Now, that prototype is necessary to understand the functionalities of the product or the services which you are designing and whether it fulfills the customer's requirements. Because customer is engaged throughout the journey. Customer is engaged in the definition, customer is engaged in the ideation, and customer is also engaged in the prototype.
Okay.
Right? So that's the phase, which is a very critical phase. And then we go for testing. Test the prototype with the customers, right?
Okay.
And then maybe we will renew or start the cycle again with the empathize. Take the product to the customer and say, hey, look, this is what we are envisaging for. Does it fulfill your purpose? Doesn't do it? And the cycle begins again. So it's an iterative process till the time we get the final product.
So does it take a lot of time then? Because since there are so many iterations possible?
Yes, it do takes time. But the advantage is that at the end of the process, the final outcome which you get, it does not need any validation from the customer. You know that customer will accept it and customer will use it and it will be a success.
So user acceptance testing reduces.
Yes, it reduces because he is involved throughout the journey. He's involved in all the phases itself, and culturally acceptable also.
Okay.
I mean, very unlikely after rolling out, the users will say that, hey, this is not what we have asked for. This has been a wrong blueprinting. They're not going to ask this because the solution has been created by them.
Okay. So it sounds very similar to what Agile does, right? Because in Agile as well, we keep the customer involved. You build, you test, modify, you build, retest, modify. So that iterative loop is also there in Agile. And I think that's the reason why you have mentioned Agile as one of the pillars which leads to design thinking on the right hand side of the slide. Is that the reason?
Yeah. So I would not say it is a pillar. I'm just trying to explain. And it is a very frequent questions which I have been receiving for years, that is design thinking all about user experience? Why do we need design thinking when we had Lean and Six Sigma methodologies there? What is the difference or commonalities with the Agile? The standard answer which I have found is that it is not like this way or that way. They complement each other, right? So if you use design thinking along with Agile or any other management framework, there will be numeric ways of quantifying the problem and quantifying the solutions and benefit. Use Lean and Six Sigma methodologies. And again, since we are talking about the customer experience at the end of the day, user experience methodologies. And that's how you will create the entire solution soundproof. Okay. And I say that these things are complementary with each other.
Okay. Very good. So if I were to, ask you that if you can share an example, or like a complete example, or like a user story kind of a thing, which would give us a little more understanding of design thinking, that would be great, because that would make us understand how it really works. Now we have understood, what are the important components of design thinking, but how does it really work? If you can give us some.
Yes, absolutely. So I will tell about a typical story which we hear from any transformation consultants in the industry these days, right?
Okay.
Now, clients typically believe that they know the business problem, they know the solution, they just need a transformation partner who will come with the data, analytics, and digital hat and implement the blueprint, right?
Okay.
The typical example is that a blueprinting is handed over to the transformation team who just code the solution, go for UAT. UAT also passes.
So blueprint is like a design of a new software or a new change that you're trying to make.
Yes, right? It could be new software, it could be customization on a new software.
Yeah.
It could be overall experience change, let us say non-digital way of doing a process to digital way of doing a process.
So for example, like how it happened in pandemic, that there are so many so many businesses which went from completely offline to very online based, completely touch based to digital based experience kind of a thing, right? So that was a big transformation.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's a very good example. And I'm sure that a lot of companies either adopted some existing technologies or they created some technologies to facilitate these moves and the new way of working, right?
And so design thinking would have played a lot of, an important role in such several transformations from being offline to being digital, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm sure that a lot of successful firms might have used and must have used the design thinking to change this user experience, right? Now, I started off this discussion saying that knowingly or unknowingly, some of us must have used design thinking, right?
Right.
For example, you do customer service, you do employee service. Are you happy with this new service which we are providing from the company and all? People give feedback and all these things. That is because they care about the customer empathy, which is the employee empathy in this picture, right? So they are doing it in a way or other.
Okay.
Now coming back to this particular example, if you think in such transformation which we are talking about from offline to online mode, now if there is some technology component, data, because I'm trying to relate this discussion with the data and analytics, right?
Right.
Now, in the data analytics way of delivering a particular service, blueprinting way of working doesn't work, because people have seen that blueprint is handed over, they implement it, users don't like it, right? Because blueprinting has been done by a set of digital professionals who have sat together in a closed room, ideated, done something on the whiteboard, created what is the user story they need to solve for. They have not kept user in that discussion. Okay. Many times you have seen that 5 times, 6 times, these things are failing. And it is not only about failing number of times, but we need to understand that time and money is involved Yeah,
Can
right.
can I just take an example which is coming to my mind about blueprinting only? So, for
Mhm.
example, if I have to suppose I was facing a problem during the pandemic time, that how do I get the haircut? Right, my
Yeah.
wife was not willing to, or maybe I did not want to take the chance that I allow my wife to cut my hair. So there was this service by one of the companies, and they sent me a WhatsApp message that you can call, so just order online, and a person would come with all sanitized, like a PP kit and all of that. So they sent me a kind of a flow. So I think, is that the kind of a blueprint that, I mean, can that flow be called as a blueprint, a user story that you were trying to talk about?
Yes, absolutely. So that is one of a blueprint which is showing to you
Hmm.
that this is how your process will look like,
Right.
right? But the advantage here is that he's taking your feedback. He is saying,
Right. Right.
sir, do you like this process or do you not like this process?
Right.
If you want this process in some other way, I'll customize it for you,
Sure.
right? Now that's the concept of design thinking, which unconsciously he's using it,
Uh-huh.
right? But in digital transformations, many times we forget that. We create that process, we ask somebody to implement it. After the implementation, user is seeing for the first time. As if you are blindfolded, he is coming, giving your haircut, opening your eyes and saying, this is the final haircut. Do you like it?
I see.
Right? He's not showing you any picture in
Right.
between.
Right.
Now that's the problem, and that's the thing which we need to solve. We need to keep customer at the center and say that I will build a solution around you. I will build a prototype around you, and I'll build the final product around you. At any time, you are there to tell me whether it is right or whether it is wrong. I'm not saying that there are no disadvantages of design thinking, right? But this is a very winning formula which work these days, especially for the open-ended problems where customer empathy is the key.
Okay. Makes
I
sense.
think that's the story I wanted to tell as an example which you were asking.
Okay, very good. So, so in the second step, you said automated process outcome did not match with the as is process. So that happens because somebody just did it, sitting with very close set of people,
Yes.
right? And so that is why you want quick discussion. The third step that you mentioned with the existing process owner, followed by a little bit of scope change, right?
Hmm.
Okay, and
Correct,
then
correct. So this is a one-way process.
right, right,
1, 2, 3. Between 2 and 3, it fails
yeah,
because 1 is not correct.
right, right, right.
The design thinking will make sure the customer is involved in 1, 2, and 3 everywhere.
Okay, makes sense. Makes sense. Great. Very good example, Anirban. Now, I want to specifically ask you, since the discussion is more about design thinking in the data world, right? So, how does it relate to the data world per se? Because I understand this is great for a large scale software technology transformation, or maybe any kind of transformation for me. I mean, the way I think it is. So, but how it is related to data world?
Okay. So when we talk about the data, a couple of things we need to think about. One is data source. Second one is data management. And the third one is data consumptions. Now I'll explain. Data source is sourcing data from various places, right?
Okay.
It could be various databases, it could be social media, it could be external databases, it could be many things flying around
Right.
in digital media or otherwise. So data management talks about that whatever data I have, is it fit for purpose to my end consumption?
Okay.
And as we have been telling this word pretty loosely these days, that garbage in, garbage out,
Right.
that control is there in the data management process.
Okay.
And then the third part, which is data consumption. Data consumption is all about that analytics and visualization and all those things. The way data is used. It can be used in a product as well,
Okay.
right?
Okay. Okay.
Now, this entire data source to management to consumption, design thinking is applicable very much.
Okay.
Now, see that at each stage, there are multiple common activities happen. For example, it could be policy making, it could be framework making, it could be creating the infrastructure, and it could be the way it is delivered.
Okay.
Now, all stages, the policy, you have to make it certain way that it is useful. Similarly for the framework, similarly for the product which you are building, which is that touch point for your end users.
Right.
Hence, at every stage, since it is an open-ended problem, since the users matter because ultimately they will use it, so it fulfills the criteria or the requirements of design thinking, and hence design thinking is used. Now we have been using it for data migration from databases to cloud migration, or maybe when you use the data science solutions, the way customer will use it. These days, you might know that people prefer to consume the data science solutions in some applications, web applications, right? They don't want to run a Jupyter notebook or some Python code to see that this output is being translated to that output, right? They want to play around the solution. Hence, people are using more and more web apps these days for prototyping. So this is a classic case of prototyping. User will see the solution, give the feedback, rather than they will go through the 1,000-line Python codes.
Right. And since users are using, so they will generate data, and that data has to be captured. So that is why it has huge application in the world of data analytics and data science as well, right?
Yes,
or in the entire data engineering stack, right? Want to ask you one more question, because a lot of our viewers are also very young, right? There are a lot of people who come with technology background, software technology, software engineering background. There are a lot of people who come with strategy and as well as research background as well. A lot of people come with finance background also. So if I were to ask you that as a young aspirant, data science aspirant or a data engineering aspirant, why does it make sense for me to know design thinking? That means, once I start working, or I'm, doing my daily chores, where design thinking will play an important role, and how can I learn, or what are the important aspects of design thinking should I learn?
Exactly. So let me take the questions in two parts.
Yeah.
First is why should you learn it, and second is how should you learn it. Now, why should you learn it? If you are in a business environment, you will see a lot of problems flying around. You spend 1 year or 2 years in a process, you will see a lot of problems are there, a lot of scopes of improvements are there, and so on and so forth. Now, if you want to approach this in unstructured way, it will not be efficient or effective, right? Design thinking will make sure that there is a correct way to identify the problem, articulate the problem, gets your teammates and your managers and stakeholders on table and ideate it together, create the prototype, solve it, and before you solve it, show them the benefits and ROI. That's the beauty of design thinking. And if you are able to do that, from day one, you are different from others who don't approach this problem in a structured manner.
Okay.
That's a big advantage.
So it brings a lot of structure to your thinking and the way we work as a data analyst. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. And it's a mindset. I said it's not a solution, it's a mindset. So the way you look at the current problem and the opportunities of improvement will be completely different.
Okay. Okay, very good.
Now comes the how part, right? Now, picking up design thinking is very easy, but using it is not.
Okay.
The way I say is that there are many courses or online contents in the design thinking, right? People can do that. It's a few days job or a few weeks. Now comes the hard part, applying it. You need to apply it with every small problem which you are seeing around, right? Okay. So once you perform design thinking for 2 times, 3 times, or 4 times, first you will do with someone who knows the design thinking. Then you will be independently doing it, right? And getting it validated from the design thinking experts. And then you will improve your skill. So once you start learning design thinking, you will see that there are many tools available, right? Okay. Those come with some of do's, don'ts, which is the best place to use this tool, and so on and so forth. It's kind of a grammar of a particular language. Okay. But once you start creating a story, creating a poetry using those grammars, right, your innovation part will come into picture. You will say that some tool is used or created for this particular purpose, but you will use it for different purpose knowingly. And that's the beauty of design thinking and how open-ended these toolkits are. And you will play around, you will deliver the successful results, and that's how your learning will be complete. And it's never-ending learning per
Okay.
se.
Can I ask you for a small tip maybe you can give, since you have so much experience in this design thinking world? As you gave an example of Lego, as you gave, I mean, as you gave so many such simple examples. So is there anything that as a data young aspirant that I can do on a daily basis that would help me at least start thinking in that direction of design thinking?
Correct.
Like some habits that I can build, or some things like that.
Okay, okay. So let me take a stab at it. It's the first time I'm hearing this
Okay.
question. So probably when you look around the problems, right? You find out a problem. Someone tells you a problem, right? Counter question may not be to that person, but yourself first. Why is this a problem, and how will this be solved? If you ask this multiple times, you will understand that whether the problem on surface of it, is it the real problem, or there is something else as a real problem.
Okay.
This is used in design thinking. There are tools to do that, but simple way, let's do that. I mean, there a problem is coming. Why is this a problem? Let's ask that.
Very good. Very good point. Very good point.
And second, before we deliver a solution to some person, it is not applicable at every place or every time. Try to create a prototype and show.
Okay.
Okay. Prototype can be built even in PowerPoint,
Okay.
right? If you say that I will be creating an app which will solve my problem, but why don't you create 2 or 3 screens of that app? Take a layout of the mobile, put some of the stuffs. It could be handwritten as well, PowerPoint or on paper, handwritten. This is how it will look like. And then show that as a story instead of creating the introduction, features, the layout, ROIs. Don't go for those things. Have 3 slides, 3 screens, show it to the people, get their interest, and then talk about everything else. Show prototype at every discussion. Maybe that's what I can say, these 2 tips.
No, I think it's a very good point. So basically, you kind of touch based on all the 3 main pillars or phases of design thinking, which we say, right? That you start with problem definition. You start with customer empathy. So keep the customer right in the center of it. Then you ideate. Then you experiment, or you create a prototype, and then you test it, and then go back to the customer, right? And you're probably keeping the customer involved in everything. So I think that's what you're trying to say, that whenever somebody asks you any question, counter question, whenever you probably visit a business, or whenever you see a business trying to solve a problem, like I gave you example of that, business, a hair cutting parlor, because of pandemic, they transformed their business, and they said that instead of customer coming to us, we will send our barbers to the customer, right? And we will create a entire workflow. And then they were very receptive in hearing the feedback as well, as to what worked, what did not work, and they were willing to adapt as per the feedback that they were receiving. So I think that's what you're trying to say, that whenever there is a question, counter question, try to understand the root of it. And also, you very rightly said that any solution should not be considered as final solution. Build small prototypes which you can quickly get tested with the final end users or the customers, right? So instead of getting a bigger shock at the end, I think these are very, very strong tips that you have given. And what I have understood from your discussion is that any technology based transformation, or any digital transformation, which are the main transformations happening, especially after pandemic, would require a lot of data analytics and data science inputs, right? Because all these apps end up building or generating a huge amount of data. So then design thinking becomes significantly important for any data person as well, whether it is a data engineering person, whether it is a data analysis person, or the data science who's kind of handling everything. So I think that's the reason why it becomes so very important in today's time, right?
Yes, very nicely put.
Great. So Anirban, it was great having you in today's discussion, and you have enlightened us to a new way of thinking. You have also enlightened us to a new process, new mentality, mindset, as you've been saying since the beginning, that design thinking is a mindset that every person Every consultant, every person who's trying to solve any problem should know about it. And you gave very good examples, very simple examples, and you were very receptive to the questions also that I asked you, some difficult questions. So thanks a lot, Anirban. It was pleasure having you in today's discussion.
Thank you, Pratik, for
Look
inviting.
forward.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.